Is this thing on? Are you there? Ah, there you are. Hi, my name is Mr. Ellison, and today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to plot coordinates or ordered pairs on a coordinate grid. Now before we get started, what I want to do is I want to familiarize you guys with the coordinate plane. Now if you'll notice, the coordinate plane is divided up into 4 distinct parts, and each one of these parts is called a quadrant. Now the quadrant is labeled with a specific number to identify it, to tell you what it is. Now our first quadrant is labeled quadrant 1 because it's the first quadrant. Now our second quadrant is quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is the second quadrant, and it is to the right, is to the left of the first quadrant. Our third quadrant is quadrant 3, and it's to the bottom and to the left of the first quadrant. And then we have our final quadrant on the coordinate plane, and it is called quadrant 4. Now, each one of these quadrants is divided up into 4 quadrants by 2 specific axes. Now one of the axes going from left to right or side to side, and it is called the x-axis, labeled with an X. Now the next axis that's vertical and it goes up and down, it's called the y-axis. Now where these 2 axes come together and cross is a special little point that in mathematics what we like to call the origin. It's called the origin because that's where everything starts. It starts in the middle. When we plot ordered pairs on a coordinate grid, we start in the origin. That's our beginning place. Now that we've kind of familiarized ourselves with the coordinate plane, its axes, its quadrant labels, and with its origin, we're going to get started. We're going to learn how to plot some ordered pairs today. Now, whenever you set up an ordered pair, this is how we like to do it in math. We like to set up an ordered pair with a set of parentheses. And we also like to put a comma in there because we're going to separate the 2 ordered pairs, one here and one there. Now, if you'll look at our graph, you'll notice that we have 2 ordered pairs here, and we have 2 axes. So, inside our ordered pair, we're going to label each one according to the axes that it lies on. Now, the first number, right here, it's going to be the number that we travel on, the x-axis. With my students, I like to refer to it as the X highway. We're traveling down the X highway. And the next term, we like to refer to that as the Y highway, or the Y side street. When you're traveling out of town and you want to go to somebody's house, you look up and you look at the addresses, and you turn onto the side street to get to their house. And the ordered pair is kind of like the address. 5 blocks down the highway, 3 blocks up the side street, and you've got your coordinate. Let's get started. Now our first one, because order matters. We talked about proportions earlier in one of our lessons, and order matters. You do the first number first and the second number second. That's why they call it an ordered pair, because you do them in order. Now, our first number is going to be in a column called the X column. And our second number is going to be in a column called the Y column. Now, accordingly, in each column, we have a set of numbers. Now, when you travel to the right on the x-axis, if you notice, all of these integers on this number line or on this axis are positive. So your X value is going to be positive. And when you travel up the street into the first quadrant, you notice all your numbers or your integers on that axis are going to be positive also. So you're going to have two positive numbers. Now, once you're going and you're traveling down that X highway and you're still going to the right, you're still traveling right on out of town on this X highway. I like to call it the X highway. You're going positive. The numbers are positive on the X. But if you take a side street and go south, the numbers become negative. So your Y value, as so, is going to be a negative number. You're going to have a positive number, then a negative number. Now, this is where things kind of get hairy. And a lot of my kids, and a lot of kids I've tutored in the past, have a lot of trouble with this side of the coordinate grid. Now, let's just say I'm decided to go east. I'm decided to go west, okay? And I'm traveling out of town like so. And I'm on my X highway and I'm going west. All my numbers here are negative. So my X number is going to be a negative. Well, let's just say I want to go up this way on the coordinate grid with my second ordered pair. The numbers become positive. So my Y is going to become a positive number. But if I'm traveling out of town going west on my X highway and I want to go into the quadrant number 3, I've got my ordered pair here and my X value is going to be negative. If I want to turn left, and go down into this area, all my Y numbers are going to be negative also. So in quadrant number 1, X is going to be positive and Y is going to be positive. Quadrant number 2, my X is going to be negative and my Y is going to be positive. Quadrant number 3, my X is going to be negative and my Y is going to be negative. And in quadrant number 4, my X is going to be positive and my Y is going to be negative. Now that we've established this, we're going to take a drive into the wild blue yonder of ordered pairs. Now, let me go ahead and grab my trusty rag here, and we're going to erase these, and we're going to do a couple. We're going to take a couple of trips around the globe. Now, let us, for a moment, set up an ordered pair. We're going to set up our parentheses, and we're going to establish our X, and we're going to establish our Y. And we're also going to put our comma to separate those two numbers together. Now let's choose some numbers as an example. On our X highway, we're going to have 6. And on our Y highway, we're going to have positive 5. Now, we're going to start on the origin, or as I like to refer it, the center of town. And since our number is positive, we're going to look on the number line and see where our positive numbers are and which direction we need to take. Now on our x-axis, we want to travel 6 units. So we look here and we see that these are positive 6 units and this is a positive 6. So we're going to want to go to the right. So we're going to get in our car and we're going to buckle up and we're going to turn the key in the ignition and we're going to be riding down that X highway. And we're going to ride down that X highway 6 blocks. We're going to go from our origin, from our starting place. We're going to drive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 blocks, and we're going to stop, okay? We're already on the highway, and now we want to get to our destination. So we look at this number, this Y, and it's a positive number. Now if we look at it, if we go this way, the numbers are going to be negative. We don't want to go that way. It's telling us that we want to go positively. So we're going to start at the point where we left off, 6 blocks, and we're going to go 5 blocks upward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to stop. Now this tells us where our point's going to be, our address. 6 blocks west, 6 blocks east, and 5 blocks north. And when we get done there, that's where our address is. Boom. And we're going to take this black marker and make a little dot there. And when we're done, we're going to remove our green marker for the Y value, and we're going to remove our red marker for the X value. And we have a point on the coordinate grid. We've gotten our feet wet. Now we're going to try another one. Let's go ahead and we're going to try the ordered pair 5, negative 4. So once again, we're going to start downtown and we want to go take a little bit of a drive. So we're going to get in the car, we're going to buckle up, and we're going to be driving along down that X highway. And while we're doing that, we're going to be driving 5 blocks. So let's look for our 5 on our x-axis. It can't be going this way because this is a negative 5. So we need to go the other way. We need to start at our origin and go 5 blocks. 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to kind of slow down because we're getting to the point where we're about to make our turn on the y-axis. Now, our y is a negative 4. So from here, we can't go up because there it would be positive 4 and we have a negative. So obviously from this point we have to travel downward where all of our numbers are going to be negative in the y column. So we're going to take our trusty little green marker, and from here we're going to turn off of that main highway, that X highway. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks south, and we're going to stop. This is our location, or our destination, if you will. And we're going to take our trusty black marker here, and we're going to put a nice black dot there. We made it to the finish line. Now, we're finished. We want to take the green and erase it. And then we want to take the red and erase it also. And we have our second point. Now it's also important when you get to the point and you finish and tidy up that you once again write out your ordered pair. We went 6 units to the right, which is positive 6. And then we went 5 units up, positive 5, 6, 5. Label your points. And then also, we want to label this point. We went 5 blocks to the right, and then we went 4 blocks down, minus 4. Now let's try another one, shall we? Let's try negative 3, negative 7. Now, this one's a completely different one, okay? Because we're going to want to go that way on our x-axis, on our x-highway. Instead of traveling east, we're going to travel west. Now, we're going to get in our car, and we're going to put on our seatbelt, and we're going to start the car, and we're going to start heading out of town. And while we're doing that, we're going to be paying attention to where we need to go. How many blocks do we need to go in that direction? It says we need to go 3. Now since 3 is a negative number, and there's a negative 3, we're going to want to go 3 blocks and stop right there. So we're going to take our trusty marker, and from our origin, from inside of town, we're going to go outside of town 1, 2, 3 blocks. And we're going to stop. We're going to kind of slow down because this is where we want to turn. Now, when we get there, we're going to look at our next set of coordinates. Where's our address? Where do we want to, how far do we want to go once we turn? In what direction do we want to turn? Do we want to turn up or do we want to turn down? Well, let's look at the number. There's a negative in front of this 7, which means we don't want to go north because everything in the y column is positive here, but in the y column it's negative. So from here, we're going to start and make our turn south. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units, and we're there. Now once we get there, we're going to want to take our beautiful little black pen and we're going to put a dot there. Then we're going to take this ordered pair and we're going to label it. -3, -7. That way we know where we are. We've labeled our address. It's 3 blocks to the west, 7 blocks down. Now let's try one more problem. And let's try -8, 4. And once again, we always want to start from the center of town, our origin, and we're going to get in the car once again and we're going to travel. And it tells us, it wants us to go 8 units that way. Now let's go ahead and count 8 units on the x-axis because we want to take the x-axis first and then the y-axis second because it's in, like we said again, ordered pair, and we go in order. Think of it as the alphabet. X comes first, Y comes second. So right here we're going to start from our origin. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and slow down the car to 8. Now we're going to stop and we're going to figure out, okay, we've gone 8 blocks or 8 units to the left. Do we want to go up or down? Let's look. There's no negative number in front of this 4, so it's positive. So that tells you right away we have to go upward on our graph. So we're going to take our trusty marker here, and we're going to, from this point we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to stop. We've made it to our destination. We're going to take our black marker once again and label it. Put the dot there, and then we're going to erase all of our directions or the lines that we used to get there. And here we go, we have our 4th point. And we've labeled it -8, +4. Now there are a lot of different ways you can learn about the coordinate grid. Personally, I've used the coordinate grid and I turned it into a town. And I used little bitty landmarks on the town to simulate how to use the coordinate grid. And I referred to the cross streets and the highways as just that, highways and cross streets. And I let the kids, I had a bunch of Hot Wheels cars that I let the kids use to simulate that activity. And it's a really good reinforcement when you're trying to teach ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. I hope you guys had just as much fun as I did today learning about ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. We'll see you next time on another episode of Mr. Ellison's Math Minute. Thanks. You have a wonderful day. Bye.